There's a specific kind of lonely that solopreneurs describe that has almost no name in the culture. It's not the loneliness of being physically alone. It's not the loneliness of social isolation. It's something more precise than either of those. And the fact that it doesn't have a name is part of what makes it so hard to do anything about. What this video is going to do is give it one. Not a soft name. Not a reframe that makes it sound smaller than it is. A precise description of what this specific experience actually is. Why it's structurally different from any other kind of lonely, and why that distinction matters more than it might seem right now. Most people, including most solopreneurs, reach for the word lonely, and it's not wrong exactly. It just doesn't fit. Here's how you know it doesn't quite fit. You can be in a room full of people and still feel it. You can have a full social life, friends, family, a partner who loves you, and come home from a dinner where you laughed for 2 hours and still feel it the moment you sit back down at your desk. You can join a business community, show up to the networking events, have the coffee chats, and feel it anyway. That's the signal that what you're feeling isn't loneliness in the ordinary sense. Because ordinary loneliness responds to ordinary connection. You call a friend, you feel better. You spend time with people who care about you. The ache lifts. What solopreneurs describe doesn't lift that way. The friends are there, the family is there, the community membership is active, and none of it quite touches the specific thing that's happening when you close the laptop at the end of the day and realize there is not a single person in your life who was present for what just happened, who understands what it cost, what it meant, or whether you got it right. That experience, that specific texture, has 3 components that regular loneliness doesn't have. And naming them is the first thing that actually changes anything. The first one is the absence of the witness, not a cheerleader, not someone who will congratulate you, a witness. Someone who was present for the difficulty, who watched you make the call, carry the uncertainty, navigate the version of the problem that only you could see, and who therefore understands what it means that it worked. Or didn't work. When a milestone arrives into silence, it's not just that there's no one to celebrate with. It's that the celebration has no context. The people who love you will be happy for you, but happy for you and understanding what it cost are not the same thing. The second component is the unverifiable win. This one is subtler and in some ways harder. When you build something alone, you have no external calibration for whether the thing you built is actually good. You have data, sometimes. You have results, sometimes. But you don't have the moment where someone who understands the stakes looks at what you made and tells you specifically what they see. That absence does something specific over time. It makes the wins feel provisional. Even the real ones. Even the ones with numbers behind them. Because a win that no qualified person has witnessed carries a question mark that data alone doesn't remove. The third component is the decision made without a qualified reader. Not an advisor. Not a mentor. Not a forum. A qualified reader. Someone who knows your business, understands your specific context, and has enough stake in something similar to give you honest input rather than safe input. When you make a call that matters and there's no one like that available, you don't just feel alone. You feel the specific weight of knowing that the call went out unread, that no one with the right context pushed back on your assumptions before you committed. 3 components: no witness, no verification, no qualified reader. That's the specific kind of lonely this is. Here's the thing that matters most about those 3 components. They explain something that a lot of solopreneurs quietly blame themselves for. You've probably tried to fix this. Not dramatically, just the ordinary ways humans fix loneliness. You called a friend and tried to explain what was happening. And they listened. And they cared. And it helped. A little. But the specific ache was still there when you hung up. Because they didn't quite understand what you were describing. Not because they weren't paying attention. Because they didn't have the context. Or you found a community. An online group, a mastermind, a peer accountability structure. And maybe it was full of genuinely decent people, but it still felt slightly hollow, slightly performative, slightly like everyone was presenting the version of their business they wanted others to see rather than the actual texture of what they were living. And you walked away from it feeling more alone than before, which made you feel like something was wrong with you. That's not a you problem. That's not a personal observation. That's structural. Here's the specific thing that happens with generic connection when the loneliness is this specific kind. Generic connection addresses the social layer. It reminds you that people care about you. And that's real and it matters. But it doesn't touch the witness layer. It doesn't touch the verification layer. It doesn't touch the qualified reader layer. because those layers don't respond to care. They respond to context. And context, the kind that actually fits, requires someone who is building something at roughly your level, facing the specific kind of uncertainty you're facing, with enough stake in the outcome to give you honest input rather than supportive input. The honest version of this is, the reason regular connection hasn't fixed it is not that connection can't help. It's that generic connection can't help with this. There's a difference, and that difference is not evidence that you're broken. It's evidence that you've been trying to solve a structurally specific problem with structurally generic tools. What actually addresses this kind of loneliness is not more connection. It's the right kind. Specific, contextual, qualified. The kind where someone else in the room also knows what a decision like this costs. If this is landing, if the three components name something real, there's a place this conversation continues. The link in the description and the pinned comment point to a monthly structure built specifically for this. Small groups of solopreneurs at similar stages, structured to provide exactly the kind of witness, verification, and qualified readership this video has been describing. Not a community to perform in, a working structure. So what actually changes when it gets a name? It doesn't make the loneliness disappear, but it changes your relationship to it in a specific way. Before you have the name, the ache just sits there as undifferentiated evidence. Evidence that something is wrong. Evidence that you're not handling this well. Evidence, if you're honest, that maybe the path was a mistake, and the fact that you miss having people around means you were wrong about yourself when you chose it. That's what unnamed pain does. It becomes proof of whatever you most fear. When it has a name, it becomes something else. It becomes specific. And specific things are navigable. The witness absence is something you can notice. You can ask yourself, is there one person in my professional orbit, not a friend, not a mentor, not a forum, but someone building at roughly my level, in a context close enough to mine that they'd understand the stakes? Who could be that person? Not a system, not a program, just a person. The unverifiable win is something you can address differently too, not by seeking validation, but by creating the conditions in which honest feedback becomes possible, which requires a relationship built on enough mutual context that honest means honest, not kind. And the qualified reader, that one requires the most deliberate construction, but it's constructible. What high-functioning solo operators actually do is not white-knuckle the isolation. They build the specific relationship, one, sometimes two, that provides the context their work actually requires. Here's the internal objection that comes up here. It sounds like, I chose this path specifically to be independent. Needing a thinking partner contradicts the whole thing. The honest version of that objection is this. Independence is the structure of your work. It's not the structure of your cognition. No one thinks well entirely alone. Not sustainably, not at the level that matters. The solopreneurs who build something real over a decade are not the ones who needed less. They're the ones who stopped waiting for permission to build the specific kind of support structure that fits the specific kind of work they chose. That's not a departure from independence. That's what independence actually looks like when it's working. If the link in the description is calling you, that's the structure this video has been pointing toward. The pinned comment will take you to the same place. What was the win that arrived into silence? The one where you most wanted someone who actually understood the stakes to be there. Going solo wasn't a mistake. The specific loneliness of it is not evidence against the choice. It's evidence of what the choice actually asks. Here's what's worth holding on to from this. There are multiple kinds of lonely available to human beings. Most of them respond to ordinary human connection, and most of them are navigable with the tools you already have. But the kind that comes from operating without a witness, without someone qualified to verify what you've built, without someone who holds the actual stakes, that one is different. That one is structural. And structural problems require structural understanding before they yield. The three things you were missing were never proof that you needed to become someone else. They were proof that the path you chose has a specific set of requirements that the culture never bothered to describe accurately. Knowing what the requirements are is not the same as having them met. But it's the first move. Because named things can be addressed. And unnamed things just become evidence of whatever you most feared about yourself. You are not someone who couldn't handle this. You are someone who has been handling something specific without the specific name for it. Now you have the name. The solopreneurs who stay on this path and build something real are not the ones who stop needing people. They're the ones who eventually got honest about what kind of people, in what kind of structure, for what specific purpose, and built that quietly, without performing independence and without abandoning it. That's the work. And the fact that you're still here, still building, still asking the honest questions about what this costs, means you're already doing it. One move at a time.